Hi, everybody. So I went live about a minute or two early. I'm having to fix or get my other computer into the group here. So give me a second here. Hopefully you can see the little Hoppy Easter banner on my screen. So we'll see here in a minute if I can get the other one going here. Okay. Looks like I made it. Get my other computer into and I got to get here, so give me a second here. Get the mute on. I have to have the mute on because I can't hear, it like reverberates and it's about 10 seconds behind. So it talks to me afterwards. All right. Hopefully everybody's finding me tonight. Whoops, second here. See if I can see. Oh, good. I can see people's. Oh, but Marianne's here. Garnet's here. So I'm starting to see people come in. They don't. There's a new interface for the Facebook Lives, and so everything's a little bit weird. So I think everything's working. Can everybody hear me? Okay. Make sure you send like me thumbs ups or tell me if you can hear me. Okay. Oh, good. Good. People can hear me. Hi, Deb. Hi, Pat. So everybody's hearing me all right? I always have Facebook likes to change things and they changed this last week and boy, last week I was a little scared that it wasn't going to work. So, hi everybody. Oh, we got a bunch of people coming in. So make sure you say something or send me thumbs ups if you can hear me okay. Denise can hear me. Awesome. Hi, Nancy. Hi, Lisa. So people are getting in loud and clear. Awesome. So this microphone in my little laptop's actually pretty good. So we'll wait a few minutes till we get a few more people in. I always the screen sharing's weird because see I can't see anything that's going on other than what my screen is. So I have to have a second computer, and so I actually have my tablet, and it works really well because I can set the tablet right next to me, and I can see what's going on the screen at the top, and then I can see all the comments come through. So I need to be able to see the comments. So. Oh, we got all kinds of people coming in. Hi, Barb. Hi, Judy. Oh, I think Marcia's here. Hi, Marcia. Cheryl. Who else is? Oh, Barb Clark. Bunch of people. So everybody's hearing me okay then. All right. Yeah, this is a really cute little project. I just wanted to do something for Easter. I think we all need something to give us hope and joy. And I thought the little Easter bunny was very cute. Um, He is like a little banner that I do in the hoop, but we're going to be playing with the um, Puffy Stitch tool. So he has puffy foam under his tail and also around the bunny rabbit. So I thought he was kind of cute. It was just something different, and I hadn't played with that tool before. Works very much like the applique tool, so it's not hard to do at all. So, okay, we got a few more people. We'll wait just a couple minutes yet till we get started. I like to start about 5 minutes after. Hi, everybody. Shirley's here, Margaret's here, Marcia's here, all kinds of people. So this tonight's class is going to be in the PEP or the Perfect Embroidery Pro software that Dime has. And this is a very simple project. Actually, I mean, it looks much harder than it actually is. And but then next week we will actually sew it out on Easter Sunday. So on Easter Sunday, I'll show you how to sew the little project and I'll give you the design. But I thought this week it'd be fun. Are you using PEP or embroidery tool shed? Okay, so Marcia asked if PEP or embroidery tool shed. So what Dime has done is that their software now is under one icon on your desktop called Embroidery Toolshed, and this is one section of it called Perfect Embroidery Pro. So it is basically one and the same. The main software that they have is still Perfect Embroidery Pro. And the icon on your desktop will say Embroidery Toolshed. So it's a little bit confusing. Any chance do you have Puffy Foam? Yes, Margaret, I will have Puffy Foam because I'm going to make a note, order Puffy Foam. I was out and I need to order from Dime. So I will order the Puffy Foam probably on Tuesday, and it should be in towards the end of the week. So yes, I will have it back up on the website. I've got it up there, but I just say it's out of stock right at the moment. So yes, I will have some more Puffy Foam shortly. For this particular project, I did use the Puffy Foam from from Hobby Lobby, and it is not the. You should use embroidery Puffy Foam. It's a different quality, and you can wash it. But this particular little thing was not going to be washed. Hi, Kathy. Hi, Lynn. Hi, Deb. This particular little project, I'm not going to be washing this, so I went ahead and used what I had around, and that was the standard craft foam that I got at Hobby Lobby. And it works fine, but if you need to wash it, you really have to use the actual embroidery foam, because the embroidery foam is washable and you can put it in the dryer. So if you're going to make any kind of garment, you need to use that type of foam when you're using Puffy Foam. So we'll talk a little bit about that when we're sewing it too. But this one I did have the pink. I didn't have any pink in my kit from Dime. So I used the white, that is the regular foam from Dime, and then the pink was just my craft foam because I happen to have that. So, hi Shirley. Okay, so let's get started. So we're going to digitize this little bunny and in Perfect Embroidery Pro. But we're also going to do a couple of new things. We're going to learn how to set up a custom hoop in the software, and we're also going to talk about that Puffy Stitch Tool. So it's a lot like a applique tool. Okay, so I'm going to put my little bunny down. You got to see the little bunny, so that's what we're going to be doing. Oh, and by the way, I uploaded the instructions that I wrote out for this project and the little bunny graphic that we're going to use for the project into the Dropbox on this group. So remember, you go to Sessions on Software, and the Dropbox link is at the top. It's an announcement, so it's always the top post on the group. And then you can click on there, and it's called Hoppy Easter Banner, and it's inside the Dropbox. So you can download the instructions and the little graphic that I'm going to use tonight, okay? And also there's sewing instructions in the back, but if you don't want to sew it until next week, we can sew it next week. But once you digitize it, you can actually sew it out. I did not put the designs up there because I'd like you to digitize it yourself. So, okay. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to go ahead and minimize my little bunny here. And I'm going to open my software. Now the software does say, the icon now says on my desktop, Embroidery Toolshed. What they did is they took all of the softwares that they have, because Dime has, quite a few, and put it underneath one icon. So you don't have to have like 16 icons on your, oh, hi Sharon, hi Pam, hi Shirley. You don't have to have like 16 icons now on your desktop. And I find that nice. My computer's small, so you can see it really cleared off my desktop a lot because I had like 6 of these different programs activated. So, okay, so I'm going to double click on Embroidery Toolshed, and I'm going to open up the software. And inside here, then I can toggle between which one I want to be in. And I'll just show you that again. I did do a little video on the group, remember, about the upgrade. So if you have questions about that, go ahead and go back and watch that video again about the upgrade that happened it's been about 5 weeks ago or so. So if you have questions about it, okay? All right, so the first thing that opens up is the My Inspiration Today screen. You know, we can get our free designs. They're over here on the right. And they usually have a little announcement of some sort. And then what I want to do to start my design is I'm going to click on the bottom here where it says create a new design. So that's what I'm going to do first. And bring up my screen here. I'm going to pull this up just a little bit so that that little screen sharing thing doesn't show on the bottom. Okay. The first thing we're going to learn to do is I want to show you how to change between metric and inches in the software. Sometimes I need to go back and forth, and I am going to do that today because I want to create a custom hoop. And I find that the hoops are easier to create in metric, actually, because I know what the metric size is for this little hoop that we're going to do tonight. Okay, so to change to metric, right now I'm in inches. The ruler bar at the top here, I'm just going to right click on the ruler bar, and this menu is going to come up, and I'm going to then choose metric. All right, so I've done that first, and now I want to create my special hoop. And I noticed when I started to do this class about a month ago that there was no 6x6 hoop, and this little banner is going to fit perfectly in that 6x6 hoop that we have for our machines. And it fits in most of the machines, like the 4000D upgraded on newer. So almost all the machines take this little 6x6 hoop. And I just love it for these little square things because it doesn't waste a lot of stabilizer. So, but I noticed that when I went to do this, it wasn't in here. So I had to create it. So I'm just going to show you how to create it. So to get started with the hoops, I'm going to go down here, and on the left-hand side, there is a little icon. It looks like a hoop. And if you hover your mouse on it, it says hoop. I'm going to click on that, and it's going to bring up all of these hoop sizes. Okay. Now I want to create a custom hoop. And I've already got it in here. It's going to ask me, you know, is it okay to replace it? And I'm just going to tell it yes. But to get started making a custom hoop, we're going to click new. And then when a new hoop comes up, it's going to ask me how big. Now that 6x6 hoop is 150 by 150, which is not quite 6x6, just so you know. So that's why I chose the metric, because then I could get the exact size, and then I'll show you in a little bit what size it is in inches. Okay, so we're going to type in 150, and it says right on the box when you get that 6x6 hoop that it is 150 by 150. Okay, I'm going to leave the frame type as rectangular. They only give you like two options, is rectangle or round, and ours are, you know, it's going to be square in this case, but we don't want the round one. And then I'm going to name my hoop. So my hoop is the brother or baby lock, whichever you prefer, brother baby lock, 150 by 150. I'm just going to call it that. Or you could call it 6x6 if that's easier for you to remember. Okay. Then I'm going to click OK. Now mine's going to come up and ask me, this hoop already exists. Replace the existing hoop, and I'll just tell it yes. You won't get that because you won't have yours already there. Okay. And then it shows up down here towards the bottom, and it's highlighted. Okay, so I want to select that hoop, and then I'm going to click OK at the bottom. And now I've got a hoop on my screen. Now, this particular exercise is kind of a smallish square design that I'm going to do, and I kind of wanted a hoop there to help me make sure I didn't, you know, mess up the size. Okay, because it needs to be a certain size to fit in that little frame I showed you. Okay. So I'm now going to go back to inches. I would like to go back to inches now. So I'm going to do the same thing I did earlier. I'm going to go back up to the ruler bar at the top. I'm going to right click on it, and then I'm going to go click on inches. Okay. Let's go back and check the size of the hoop now in inches. If I click on the hoop button down here again, I'll have to click it twice, just so you know. Now it says it's 5.9 by 5.9. So it is not quite 6 by 6, but it's close. Okay. So I still have it chosen and I'm going to click OK again, and now it's going to come back. But that's how you can tell how many inches. It's kind of at the top, right above the little, like the little mock design area. Okay. Now I'm going to check my, let's right click on the ruler bar again here. I want to check to make sure that I do not have the snap to grid turned on, because I don't need that. I do want to show the grid, that's fine. And the settings that are fine this time, because I'm not going to do any specific measurements tonight, but I'll just leave the grid that I have on at this point. Okay. So that's the show grid's on and snap to grid is off. So that's good. All right, then we're going to go up and I'm going to check one other thing under the view menu. I'm going to check to make sure that there's a check mark next to the word start stop. That turns on that little green and red icon that shows us where the center of our design area is, because we will need that to make sure everything's lined up. Right now it is grayed out because I don't have anything on my screen, but I just wanted to make sure that it was checked. And then I wanted to show you again also under tools and general options, and under the view tab, there's a bunch of tabs up here. One thing that I find very difficult when I'm looking at my properties box is to be looking at little icons. I have to hover my mouse over it to find out what I'm actually looking at. And so it's easier for me to read the menu name. So I don't like that show properties tabs as icons checked. I like to deselect that. Once you deselect it, it will stay that way. Although when there's an update, often I have to go back and deselect that again. So it just depends on if you've had an update recently or not. Okay. So mine is unchecked, so that's the way I want it. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to do this little bunny banner, and we need to have some pieces. It's basically an applique, or actually several appliques. And so the background fabric is going to be an applique. So we know, we've talked about applique before, and you know, appliques have several pieces, and the first piece is going to be a placement line. So we need a placement line first for our batting, because I'm going to put batting in this to give it body, okay, and some poof. So we're going to start out by drawing a square. So there's some really cool artwork tools in this software. I'm going to go up here to the top, and the artwork tool is like the pencil, the circle, and the square. And if you click on the little arrow right next to that, it gives you options of different shapes. Now I want the rectangle tonight because I'm going to draw a square. And to draw a square instead of a rectangle, if you hold down your control key while you're drawing, it will be a perfect square. Okay. So I'm going to hold my control key down on my keyboard. I'm going to kind of start it up here on the top left corner of my square, and I'm going to come down the other way. And you can see then I had a perfect square. If I had not done that, see, it kind of just did whatever size. All right. So the control key makes it be a perfect square. All right. So we'll do the perfect square. Then we're going to get the selection tool, which is the top one on the left-hand side, the little arrow. And you can see that it selects my box. Now, there is that green and red icon, and I need my square to be in the center of this hoop. So as you can see, there's a little kind of a little X, black X, that I want that to be right in the middle there. And if you can't quite get it right by dragging it and dropping it, if you hold the control key down and use the arrow keys on your keyboard, you can nudge it around until it's perfectly centered in that area. Okay, so that I want that square to be centered in my workspace. Okay, so now we need to get this to be a special size, a certain size. The properties box is over here on the right, and this works for everything. It's always the properties box, and it will give us different choices of tabs up here depending on the type of stitch we're using. So I want to maintain, I'm going to go to transform because we're going to change the size. So transform is the size. I want to maintain the aspect ratio. Remember, we made a square. So I want it to stay square. And I'm going to change it to 5.6 by 5.6. And you can see both of them changed at the same time. And I'm going to click apply. And it changed the size of my square to 5.6 inches square. Now I noticed it looks still pretty well centered. Let's just check. I think it's just a little off up and down. So I'm just going to nudge it a little bit there. I think that looks better. Okay, sometimes when I change the size, I have to nudge it just a little bit because it veers one side to the other a little bit. Okay, so this is our square. Well, if we look over here in our sequence view, down here at the bottom, and if you're still, this is a good time to talk about this. If you are still seeing a list of all the programs, see all these little tabs down here? The one that looks like a shopping cart is going to show you the names. We'll do this quickly. Just a second. I got to get this up a little higher. My computer's small. So this is all of the different programs that Dime has. And if you have a yellow check mark, that means that you own that. Okay. And my Perfect Embroidery Pro is the one that comes up as a default. Okay. So there's different tabs down here. And the one that we need for most of the time we're digitizing is going to be the sequence view, which is the first one. Denise, the answer to that is not really. There's not just a right click and center because you don't have to center this at all. So no, there is not. There is when you got multiple items, if you need to center them on each other, but there's not like a move to center. PE Design has a button that says move to center. But this program is set up so you don't have to center anything. It will automatically come into the embroidery machine centered though, no matter if it's centered on the screen or not. But I like to center it on the screen, and that's why they give you that little start stop tool, that little green red thing. Okay. All right. So I now have this square, but if I look at this over in my sequence view, if I click the little plus sign, it says it's artwork. So right now it's not even stitches. So first thing we need to do is get it into stitches. Okay. So I'm going to get my selection tool, select my line by clicking on it, and then I'm going to right click on the line. I'm going to convert to, and then I am going to make it a run. Because remember, this is going to be our placement line for the batting. So we just need a run stitch to show us where to put our batting. So I'm going to click run. Then I have all these other options at the top, like run. All of the properties are up here, and the run properties allow me to change things. So I would like the run tab. I would like my stitch length to be 2.5 millimeters. So I'm going to change the first thing to 2.5. I would like the type to be a standard run, so just a single run stitch. And then I'm going to click apply. Give me a second here. Like I said, my computer's a little small, so my apply button disappeared. And you can move the sequence view down a little bit so that my apply button will show up again. There it is. Okay, and I'm going to click apply. Then I'm going to go to a different tab in my properties box. I'm going to go to commands. And I want to tie in and tie off. In other words, I want to make sure that it ties a knot at the beginning and at the end of what I'm doing so that it won't come unsewn. So I'm going to tell it to tie in and be a basic, and tie off and be a basic. And then I'm going to click apply again. So now we've got our placement line. After we sew the placement line in the hoop, then the next thing is that we would lay down our batting. So the batting then needs to be sewn down. So the next step in an applique is generally a tack down line. So that's what this is going to be. To make this tack down line, I like to do little shortcuts. So I do a lot of copying and pasting. So we can go up here to the top. My square is still selected. It's got the selection boxes. And at the top of the toolbar, right next to the scissors, is the copy button. So I'm going to click copy because I want to copy that square. I need it again. Give me a second here. I'll turn my page. And now we're going to do the batting tack down line, which is going to be the second line. So I am going to click the paste button, which is right next to copy. And then I'm going to go down here. I need it to stop in between these two things. So I need to make it a different color. So if you look in the sequence view on the right, both of the squares are the same color, but I want them to stop in between. I'm going to go down and I'm going to right click on color number 2, which now gives me a color number 1 and then a color number 2. So it's going to stop in between. Okay. The second line is our tack down line. So this is going to be sewing down our batting. So I'm going to need to do a little bit of work with this one. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to transform it actually, because I'd like it to sew inside of that placement line just a little bit. So I'm going to go up here to the properties box to the transform tab. And then I am going to transform this time by percentage, because you can transform by actual size or you can transform by percentage. And I would just like it to be 2% less. I just want just a little bit less than the first one. So I'm going to type in 98%. And it will also change, it'll change both of them because we still have maintain aspect ratio checked. So I'm going to click apply. I typed in 98%. I'm going to click apply. And that made my second outline just slightly smaller than the first. I'm going to switch over to my run tab now because I'd like to change a couple of things. I still want my stitch length to be 2.5, so it already is. And then I would like it to sew over this 2 times. So I want to make it a 2-ply, because this is a tack down stitch and it makes it easier to trim against, if you sew over it 2 times, it's much easier to trim without cutting through your stitches. So I'm going to tell it to be a 2-ply and I'm going to click apply. Then I'm going to check my commands tab again, because I remember we want these to tie in and tie off so that they won't unsew. And it should still be there because remember we copied and pasted. So it is tie in is basic, tie off is basic. I'll just go ahead and click apply for good measure at the bottom. Okay, so the first line is our placement line for the batting. We're going to lay our batting down. The second line is the tack down for the batting. Then we're going to trim the batting close to the stitches all the way around. Okay, so does that make sense to everybody so far? That's the first 2 elements in an applique. Okay, so after we get the batting down, we're going to put a piece of fabric over the batting to make it pretty, of course. So we need to get another tack down stitch to tack down our fabric. So remember we copied and pasted that first square. I'm going to paste it again. It's still sitting there because we already copied it once. So we don't need to hit copy again. All I have to do is go up and hit the paste button. So I'm going to click paste again. And if I look at the bottom, down here at the sequence view, now I have 3 outlines. I would like this one to be color number 3. So I'm going to go ahead, I've got it selected. I'm going to right click on the color box number 3 and change it to, it's kind of a green color. Then I'm going to go back up again. I've got that one selected. I'm going to go back up to my properties box at the top. On the run tab, I would like my background fabric tack down to be 2.5 millimeters. It already is. I would like it again to be a 2-ply. I want it to sew around it twice. So I'm going to go ahead and change my type to 2-ply. And then I'm going to click apply. Then I'm going to check my commands tab and make sure that my tie-in is at basic. It should be because we've already had it there. And the tie-off is basic. And I'm going to click apply. Okay, so we have done the batting placement line, the batting tack down line, and the background fabric tack down line. All right. So anybody got any questions? Everybody understanding what I've done so far? Kind of walking it through in your head. That's how I have to digitize, is I have to think through. You know, I watched a lot of these sew, and if you kind of think it through in your head, the steps that would happen, that's the way I learned to digitize. I watched things sew, and then I knew how they worked. Okay, so we've got our background fabric on here now. And so what do you suppose we need to do next? What size is the third square? The third square is going to be the same size as the first one, Denise, because that's the one that we copied to begin with. I want it to be the same size because I wanted the batting to be a little bit smaller, and so that it would not be as bulky in the seam. So it's the same size as the original square. So we've got a bigger square, a littler square, and then the bigger square again. Okay, so now I've got this beautiful fabric down, and I would like to quilt it before I put anything on it. So the first thing we're gonna make a quilting. We're gonna quilt the background. All right, so we still have that square copied because we copied it earlier, and I can paste it again. So I'm gonna paste it again. And then I'm gonna change its color. I want it to be color number 4. So just go right click on color number 4. So now I've got 4 squares down here. This one is also the same as the first size. The size is the same as the first one. Okay. Now I'm going to change this one though to a different type of stitch. I want it to be a fill stitch because I'm going to use a stipple. So I'm going to right click right on top of my line over here. Right click, it's selected, and convert to, I want to convert to a complex fill because it's going to be a fill stitch. So I'm going to click on complex fill, and it turns out to be a fill. Well, we really don't need that fill, so we're going to change that in the properties box. So if I go up here again to the properties box where it says fill, I can choose the type of fill. Instead of a standard fill, I would like it to be stippling. And then they give you a couple of different options for the pattern of the stippling. And I don't want it to be the maze type. I want it to be what they call Hilbert. And Hilbert is more of a random type stipple. So I wanted it to be more random. And then my stitch length, I want that to be shorter than 3. So we're going to put 2.5 for that. And then I kind of played around with the density until I got it where I wanted it. And the density of 5 is a nice size for the smaller piece that we're doing. So I'm going to change the density to 5, and then I'm going to click apply. Get the apply button up here. And look, it is now stippling. It looks much better than that fill. And then we're going to go over to the commands tab because there's also a commands tab here. Click on commands. And again, want to make sure my tie-in and my tie-off are at basic. So that means it will make it tie a knot so that things won't come unsewed. So we're going to do basic for the tie-in, basic for the tie-off, and then click apply. Nancy, I just what I usually do is I kind of look at it on the screen and see what looks good to me. After I sew it out, sometimes I go back and change it. Nancy asked, how do you know what size stitch to use? 2.5 for the length is a nice size stitch. It's just like your 2.5 on your sewing machine. And the size of the density, I don't want it to be too tiny. I kind of look at it, and you can tell if you like it or not, you know. And then sometimes when I sew it, it's not quite the way I was thinking, so I'll go back and change it after I sew the first test. So Okay, hopefully that answered your question. So there's our stippling. So we had our placement line, the tack down for the batting, put our background fabric on, tack that down, and now we have quilted the background fabric. Okay, now the next step that I wanted, I'm going to show you quickly what we're going to do next. Let me get my little, oops, where'd you go? Here's my picture. I wanted to do a cute little decorative stitch around the outside edge. So we're going to make a decorative stitch next. Okay, bring that back up. So we got our quilting on there. Now we're going to do the decorative outline. So I still have that same square copied. So we're going to paste it one more time. I'm going to click the paste button up here. And now it's down here at the bottom. I'm going to right click on color number 5. So we'll just right click on color number 5. Then I'm going to go up and I need to transform it because it's not the size I want it now. So I'm going to click the transform tab in the properties box. And whoops, second here. And I decided I wanted it to be about a 1/2 inch smaller. So I chose 5 inches is what I chose. And it seemed like it worked pretty good. I did a couple of options and 5 inches seemed to work well. You notice that it is changing both of them to 5 inches because I have maintain aspect ratio chosen. Then I'm going to click apply. Okay, so there's our square, and see it's about, about a 1/2 inch or so smaller than the edge of our little design. I'm going to go to the run tab now because we need to change what this looks like. I don't want it just to be a straight stitch. I'd like it to be prettier. And I'm going to choose the type of motif. So motif is going to be a pretty decorative stitch, just like a decorative stitch on your sewing machine. And I just kind of looked through these till I found one that just happened to hit my eye. And I liked you can tell there's a bunch of them. See, there's like 200 of these. Okay. And I just happened to like number 147. So I chose 147. And the pattern length, I decided 10 was kind of big. When I just left it at the default and clicked apply, the little like stars were really big. So I decided maybe we needed to make it smaller. So I chose 5, and that seemed to look good on the screen. So I went to 5, and I'm going to click apply. And there we have a decorative fill, or a decorative line around the edge of our little bunny banner. So now again, I want to go back to my commands tab, and I want to make sure that my tie in and my tie off are on, and they should be because remember it was on to begin with, and this is still a outline or a run stitch, and I'm going to click apply. Okay, so we had our placement line, tack down for the batting, tack down for the fabric, quilting, and now the decorative stitch. Oh, Lori, am I out of focus? It looks good on my end. I'm sorry. I've actually am sharing my screen, so it looks really good on my tablet. So is it blurry for everybody? Because I can really see well on both of my computers. So hopefully, I'm sorry, Lori. Okay, so there's our decorative stitch around the outside. So we're getting close to being done, but now we got to put our little bunny in here. Okay, so give me a second. I got to turn my page. And we're going to talk about the puffy stitch. The puffy stitch is sort of like an applique stitch. Does it look okay for you? I'm sorry, Lori. I think maybe it might be your computer, or maybe you have it blown up really big. You might make it a little smaller. Maybe it would be better. So, okay. Everybody else is good? Okay. Awesome. Yeah, sometimes when you make it like full screen, it is, Facebook's video quality is not like the best. And if you're on a smaller screen, it seems better. So hopefully that'll help you. Okay. So now we're going to do the bunny part because we're going to we want to make our little bunny, and he's going to be a puffy foam design that's more, it's like an applique. On mine, I used white fleece for the bunnies, and then I used puffy foam in the satin stitching that went around. So my bunny has fluffy, fleece in there, um, plus it has the puffy foam. So there's lots of like dimension on it. Okay. And then I made we're going to make the little tail puffy foam as well. So it's got dimension. Okay. So in order to do the bunny, it's going to be easier to do the bunny part on another screen and then bring them together because it's just easier to work without all this other stuff that we could move. So I'm going to go ahead and we're just going to click new. You can have multiple screens open or multiple designs open in this software at the same time. So I'm going to go ahead and up here at the top, there's a little piece of paper with the corner turned down, and that is new. So I'm going to click the new button, and look, it gives me a new piece of paper. So we're going to bring our bunny in and work with the graphic. So we're going to work with graphics, and it's just a little JPEG, and I gave you that in the Dropbox file as well. So the instructions and the little graphic are there for you. And we're going to use the backdrop tool because we want to trace this little bunny rabbit, and we need to bring the picture in to trace it. Okay, so the backdrop tool is over on the left hand side about halfway down. It looks sort of like kind of like a TV screen, and I'm going to click the backdrop tool, and that opens up a find box or a open box. Okay, I'm going to navigate to where my bunny is. My bunny is on my desktop, and it's in a folder called, I got to find it here, Hoppy Easter banner. So it's in that folder. And here's my little bunny rabbit. This is little purple bunny rabbit. I'm going to click that, and I'm going to click open. Okay. Now it comes in, as you can see, rather large. Now, when I work with graphics, the best way to deal with the graphics is to make it the size that you want it to turn out. So instead of making it like this one's not like super huge, but there's some that'll come in that will be like 20 inches by 20 inches. So the best way to work with the graphics is actually to make it the size you want it to end up before you start working with it. And then you don't have to try to resize things, because if it's really huge and you get it the way you want it and make it smaller, things will have to be resized for like stitch widths and all that. Okay. So the first thing we're going to do, the backdrop is now in the properties box. And I want to change the size of my height to 4 inches. I decided I needed about 4 inches tall. So I'm going to do 4 inches there. And then I'm going to click apply. And this will come down in aspect ratio. Okay, that it's automatically like that. And it's the size I needed now. But I still can't see the whole thing. So I'm going to go up to my zoom at the top ruler bar up here where it says 200% right now. I'm going to go click on the arrow next to that and say to fit. Kathy Quinn always used to say, to fit is our friend. And so then you can find stuff. So like if I accidentally move this off the screen like this, whoops, see if I can get it to do it. Let's say, whoops, I lost my design. Okay, if you go up to that zoom to fit, your little bunny will come back. Okay, so the zoom to fit is very, very handy if you lose, especially if you lose it on the screen. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to trace this little rabbit. I have something here that I can work with, so I'm going to trace him. And I need to get the tool I want. So we're going to use this specialty tool. It's called the Puffy Stitch Tool. And at the top here, all of these tools. It's underneath the applique tools. If you look next, the applique tool is this green kind of half circle. And just to the right of it is a little arrow. And I'm going to click on that. And then it gives me two more tools. One of them is the Puffy Stitch and the other one is Tackle Twill. Tackle Twill is one of those, if you've seen like football jerseys and stuff with the applique letters and stuff, they often use what they call Tackle Twill for that. And then the Puffy Stitch is the Puffy Foam. So we're going to use the Puffy Stitch this time. So I chose Puffy Stitch. And then I am going to trace with this tool. I've got a little cross on my cursor now. I am going to just simply trace around my little rabbit. So to do this, I'm making sure I don't lose my place. Just a second on my notes. Okay. I'm going to start. I don't like to start like on a point. I like to start like in the middle somewhere. So I'm going to actually start kind of in the middle of his little head here. And I'm going to click. And I'm going to click over to the right and go down to the little point of his ear. Now, I did that without holding down the control key. And if you hold your control key down while you're clicking, and a lot of this, as you can see, is very curvy, it creates curves in your digitizing. So I am going to now, when I go start up the ear here, I'm going to hold my control key down because this is all curvy. I'm going to hold my control key down and I'm going to work around the ear. And if you notice, there's little tiny blue marks on his ear, and the ones that are square are going to be pointed. You know, they're the straight tool, and the ones that are circles are the curve tool. So that then you know which one's which because they gave you two little icons. When I get down here to the base of his ear, I want to make that straight because I want that to be a point in there. So then I'm going to work my way out of his head. I'm going to hold my control key down because that's round or rounded. So I've got my control key down. And then when I go into this point of the bottom of his head, I'm going to let go of the control key because I want it to be a point. Then I'm going to work back out of his body. I'm going to put my control key down. And then here's another point. So I'm going to let it up. And then I'm going to hold it down when I go around his foot, his little foot. Go around here, and then when I get to this point, I'm going to let go of it. So I go into this point, and then I'm going to hold it down again for the curve for his little bottom. And then we're going to go up to the point, and I let go, and then I'm going to go around his foot. I'm holding it down now. Okay, and then I'm going to go into that point again, so I'm going to let go. And then I'm going to hold it down for the curve. And then I'm going to let go of it again for the point on the bottom of his head again. Hold it down for the head. Let go for that point there. And then when we go up his ear, it's again curved, so I've got the control key down. But I really liked it when they added the two different icons so you can see if it's curved or if it's straight. Okay, and then I'm going to let go for that point here. And then I'm just going to go up to the middle again where I started. I'm going to click on top of the first box. Then to finish this, I need to right click. And look, I have a satin stitch around the outside edge. If you find that you're not happy with your drawing, you can fix things. And I didn't go into the fixing in the instructions much, but I'll do that quickly here so you can see that sometimes I have to go in and I have to reposition some points that I made. I didn't quite get it. So the tool under the selection tool is called the shape tool. And if you just click on that, it will bring up all the little dots again that you just made. And then you can grab a hold of them and you can pull them and reposition them so that you're more satisfied with the shape. Okay. So that is how you do the editing. You know, sometimes I have to do this. I'll have to like, well, I don't really like that one. I don't like that one. So that's how I clean up after I work on a design. Lots of times I'll get it so it looks pretty good the first time, but sometimes I'll just have like a couple of points that are just way off. So I'll take my shape tool and just do some editing, pull it, and when you click off of it, it rearranges them. Okay, so we'll talk more about editing another time, but I think that is a pretty easy tool to use. And it's just the one underneath the selection tool. It's the shape tool. Okay. All right. So let's get him selected again with the selection tool, our little bunny outline. And I got to make sure I get right where okay, so I right click to finish. And now I want to do some settings for this puffy stitch. So I have some settings that I would like to use. Again, my properties box. See, now it says Puffy Stitch. So my properties box, I would like it to be a little wider. I want it to be 4 millimeters wide. And I think the stitch length should be 2.5. And what that is going to be that, remember, this is going to be like an applique. So remember, appliques have placement lines and tack down lines and then the covering stitch. So I want the stitch length for those placement and tack down lines to be shorter so that it's easier to trim against those. I would like the corners to be extended. So like where I went in, at the bottom of the head, at the base of the ear, I would like those little corners to be very pointed. So I'm going to tell it to be extended. And then I definitely need a placement line and a tack down line. So this is like an applique. So we need those two things to be there. The inset means when I do the finishing stitch, how much of the stitching is going to be like over the middle. So I would like it to be a little bit more inset than out. So I want it to be about 60% in and only 40% out. So to make sure I definitely cover my fabric. So I'm going to choose inset of 60%. And then I'm going to click apply. Oops, maybe. There we go. And apply. Then I'm going to go to that commands tab because we want to make sure that we have some tie-ins and tie-offs. So commands, I want to tie in as basic. I want to tie off as basic. And I'm going to click apply there. Now, when we have this software, the way it talks about appliques, so when I look down here in my sequence view, and if I click the little plus sign to see what's under there, it just shows Puffy Stitch. Well, remember we talked about this, that we know that there are 3 pieces to an applique. I just can't see all of them. They're all like grouped together under that Puffy Stitch header. But I would like to be able to see that right now because I want to look at it. So to do that, it's very simple. I'm going to go over here to the sequence view. I'm going to right click on the word Puffy Stitch, and this little menu is going to come up. And I want to break up the path because I want to be able to see my placement line, my tack down line, and my Puffy Stitch. So I'm just going to tell it to break up the path. And look, I've got 3 different things under there now. Okay. I want to change the color of the second item. Some sewing machines do not read. If I leave these all the three the same color, some sewing machines will not stop in between the colors because it's the same color. So I like to change the middle one just to make sure that that's not a problem. Okay. Most of the bigger machines will read that as 3 separate steps, but there are some of our machines that do not read that. They will just keep going. All right. Why isn't that the default? I don't, oh, to open up like that, Nancy? You mean to open up and see the run, the 2 runs in the Puffy Stitch? Sometimes I don't have all 3 of them. Sometimes I only need 2. So they let you choose if you want to open that up or not. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose the second one. That'll be the tack down line. And as you can see up here in our properties box, it says it's a 2-ply. So it's going to go around it 2 times so I can trim against the fabric. I'm going to then right click. I'm going to go down here and I'm going to change the color of that one. I'm going to right click to number 2, on right click on number 2. And then I have my three pieces and my puffy stitch. So that way I only have 2 colors, but they are separated by a second color. So that way everything's going to stop okay. To answer your question, Nancy, when you save this as a sewing stitch, like, or a sewing file like PES, or I think you said you had maybe a Viking, if you're using HUS or VP3 or whatever, then they will open up and they will be 3 pieces. But when you're looking at it in this working file, it's usually just 1, just for simplicity's sake. But sometimes I need to look at those pieces to be able to move them around even sometimes. So that's why you can open them up if you need to. Okay. All right. So we have our bunny. We have our bunny applique. That's what we're going to do we're going to do one other thing on this screen, and then we're going to put them all together and finish up. So we've got our bunny puffy stitch, and we're going to he needs a tail. So we're going to make him a tail. And I found this really cool tool. I had never used it before. And I'm going to go back up to the artwork tools. And it's, again, the circle, the square, and the little pencil. And I'm going to click on the little arrow right to the right of it. And I'm going to go down, and I found this really cool spiral tool. So I'm going to click spiral. And I want it to be a single spiral. And the revolutions, how many times it goes around, I decided 3 was enough on this one because it's pretty small. I'm going to go 3, and I'm going to click OK. And then I'm going to go down to the bottom, and I'm going to right click on the color number 2, because color number 1 is the last color on the bunny. I'm going to right click on color number 2 so that I choose that. And then I'm just going to kind of go up here. It works sort of like that square tool we used. And I'm going to go up here, and I'm just going to kind of draw a spiral over his tail. Size I want it. That looks pretty good. Okay, I think that's a good size. And I let go. Then I'm going to go up and get my selection tool because we need to do some things to this. So I'm going to click the selection tool. And there's my it's selected. So I'm going to pull it up a little bit. It's a little bit low, so we'll just pull it up just a little bit. Okay. Then I am going to right click on this, because right now, if you look again at this sequence view down here, right now it's still artwork because we used the artwork tool. So we need to get that into some sort of stitches. And I would like it to be another puffy stitch because I'm going to use that puffy foam underneath his tail too. So I am going to right click right on my little spiral tail. I'm going to convert to, and I'm going to go back down to the puffy stitch. Now I want to change some settings. Again, we have this puffy stitch up in the properties box, so we can change what we want to do. I am going to make the width, we need to make it a little bit wider. I'm going to use 3.5. And then my stitch length, again, I want it to be 2.5. And I'm going to uncheck the placement and tack down line because remember, this one I'm not going to do anything except put the puffy foam in it. So I don't need any other applique lines. So I'm going to deselect those 2 boxes. I want to leave my inset at 50%. So I want it to be, 50% on each side of the center line. I'm going to click apply. And then I'm going to go to my commands tab and check. I need to make sure my tie in is basic. My tie off is basic. And click apply. And then I need to check to make sure I've got my tail where I want it. So it's a little bit, let's see, it's a little bit low, so we probably should move it up just a little. I'm going to hold my control key down and just bump it up with my little arrow keys on my computer. There we go. I think I'm happier with that. It's a little higher than his tail was, but I don't want any of those other stitches to run into it. So I think that'll be good. Okay, so there's our tail. Now, we want to save this design as a separate design, just so if we need to go back and change things, it's easy to do. So I'm going to save just the bunny right now. I'm going to go up to File, Save As, and I want to always save a working file. So the working file is called the C2S file. So we always want to save that C2S file because it's something that we can come back to if we need to fix something. So I'm going to just call it bunny. Whoops, except I can't spell. And then I'm going to save it on my desktop for now. And I'm going to leave it as C2S and click Save. If I need to, whoops, come on, there it goes. If I needed to save this one alone as a stitch file, then I would go back to Save As again, and then I could change to whatever format I need. In my case, I would probably use the Brother Baby Lock version 9. Okay, but we're not going to save this particular one as a stitch file because he's going to be a stitch file in the other design. Okay, so we won't do that one for this. All right, so I got to turn my page. Now we need to get the bunny, whoops, second here. We need to get the bunny onto the other page that we started so that they can all be together. So I'm going to go up to Edit, and I want to select everything that's on my page right now. So I'm going to go Edit, Select All. It will not select the graphic. It just selects the stitches that are there, okay? And I'm going to click the copy button because up there I'm going to click copy. I want to copy him. Then I'm going to go down to the bottom. All my little tabs are here of all the designs I have open. And my other one is just called Design 1 at this point. We haven't saved it yet. So I'm going to click on that tab and go back to our background. So now I want to click Paste. I'm going to go up and hit the Paste button. And there's our bunny. So now our bunny is in the middle of our design. I think he needs to be moved up a little bit. So I'm going to pull him up a little bit, or maybe take my control key with my arrows and just scooch him up a little bit. I want him to stay centered on the 0 line. So this 0 line right here is the center. And that's where but I want him a little higher on the screen. So we're just going to move him up with the little control key with the arrow. There we go. I think that'll be good. Now I want to put some lettering on. So I want it to say Hoppy Easter at the bottom. Okay. So I'm going to go to do some lettering. We've done lettering before. We're going to get the text tool. I'm going to click this just on the design page somewhere. Okay. And then I'm going to go over here to my properties box again. And in this box, I'm going to type in, I want it to say Hoppy, Hoppy Easter. Okay. So Hoppy Easter. Then I would like to use the font Kids. I just thought it was a cute font. That's one of my favorite fonts. It's a juvenile looking font, but it's cute because it's all different sizes. Okay, so I picked Kids, and then I would like the height, instead of 0.79, it's kind of big. I'm going to go 0.50. About a ½ inch letters look like good, and then I'm going to click Apply. So there's my Hoppy Easter over here. Okay. I might have to zoom to fit, but I didn't have to this time, so it looks pretty good. Now, every time I try to move letters, if I don't go get the selection tool, I constantly take a letter out of my letters because this one would allow me to take like that P out of there. So I do this every time. So I always go back and get my selection tool before I try to move my letters around because I always make a mistake. Oh, and I think I'd like this to be a different color because it's going to end up being the same color as my tail. So I'm going to go down and I'm going to click on color number 3, right click on it while it's selected so it's a different color. So let's just do color number 3. There we go. And now I can pull it down underneath the bunny. Okay, and then again, I'd like to make sure it's centered on my 0 line. That's the horizontal 0 line. I'm going to use my control key and I'm going to bump it over because I got it a little bit off. Looks pretty good. And then make sure that the bunny's high enough. And my bunny, I think, needs to be moved up just a little bit more. So I got to select all the bunny pieces. So it's the outlines and the puffy stitch and the tail. So I think he needs to be bumped up a couple little bumps. Oops, haven't quite got him yet. Try that again. There we go. Okay. I think I got him one bump too high. There we go. All right, so there's our bunny and the Hoppy Easter lettering. So we're almost done. So we have all of the applique stuff on the front of the banner, and then my banner also has a backing, and we're going to sew the backing on in the hoop too. So the last thing we need to do is to go up and we need one more square so that we can make it sew down the entire backing. So there'll be two pieces that it's going to be one of those like envelope backs. So you put the two pieces down and you put the right sides together on top, and then we'll sew around the whole thing. So I'm going to go, I have to make sure I get the right backing sewing line. Okay. So we want to go up in our sequence view because I would like that backing sewing line to be just a little bit smaller, sort of like that batting one was. So I know number 2 in my sequence view was that smaller square. So I'm going to select that one in my sequence view. I am going to click copy on the top here, and then I'm going to click paste. Now, if you look in my sequence view, now I have 2 runs underneath step number 2, but we want that to be at the end. So to move the sequence view around, I'm going to pull this up a little bit so you can see it better. I'm going to take this, I'm going to grab it with my mouse, and I'm going to pull it down underneath. Oops, I didn't get it though. Pull it down underneath the word Hoppy Easter so that the final square is at the bottom. Okay, so that's how you change the arrangement of your stitching, is just grab what you want and pull it up or down wherever you want it. Okay. Now, since that one's selected, that's the bottom one, it's still selected down here, we need to change some properties on that. So let me pull my sequence view down a little bit again. Sorry. We're going to back up to the properties box, and I would like, we've got a run, and I would like that run, I want the length to be 3.0 this time. And I'm going to use the type bean. So the bean stitch is like a triple stitch. Since this is going to be like the outside seam, I would like it to be nice and strong. So I'm going to use the bean stitch, and I'm going to click apply. I'm going to go back over to my commands tab and verify that I have tie in as basic, tie off as basic, and click apply. Okay, so that is the entire banner. That was the last step. And when I got all done, I looked at it and I thought, you know what? I want the whole thing just a little bit bigger. I wasn't quite happy. It was a little too small. And I thought, but I don't want to have to go back and rechange all the sizes I use. So what I did, and I just made it easy, we're just going to make the whole thing bigger. So if you go back up to edit, select all, then I can go to, if you look over here at the sequence view, there's a little arrow way over on the right, and you have to click that little arrow until you get all the way over to the transform tab. Okay, then I'm going to tell it, I've got maintain aspect ratio. I decided I wanted it to be about 5 3/4 inches square. So I'm going to type in 5.75. So, I guess I can just change my mind, right? I decided I wanted it a little bit bigger. I'm going to click apply. And then it fills up my hoop just a little bit more. So it made it just a little bigger, fit in my little frame just a little nicer. Okay. So now I'm happy with my little bunny. I've got all the parts to it. Now I need to save it. So again, we're going to save this file, save as. We need to save it as a C2S file. This is our working file that we can go back to if we need to fix anything. And I'm going to name it Hoppy Easter Banner. Hoppy Easter Banner. And I'm just going to save it on my desktop. I'm saving it as a C2S. But this one I am definitely going to be sewing. So now I need to go File, Save As, and I'm going to go choose my machine format, which is PES version 9. And then I'm going to save that on my desktop as well. And that is my stitch file that I'll be using in my machine. So, are there any questions? Is this making sense to everybody? Does everybody kind of have in their head how we're going to be sewing this? I did write out the sewing instructions for you, and how big you need to make your fabrics and everything. And it's part of the instructions for the group or for this exercise. And then that little graphic is in there too. Next week on Easter Sunday, we're going to get together and we're going to sew the little Hoppy Easter banner. And that'll be on Sew Along with Jan. We're going to sew out the little banner. Okay. So does anybody have any questions about the digitizing? Is this all making sense to everybody? Everybody's very quiet tonight. Did everybody go to sleep? There's a little bit, oh, I was doing along with you. However, the last move of this run stitch, oh, it wouldn't move, Lynn. What you have to do, you might have to pull up your sequence view, but when you go to move it, grab it with your mouse and keep your mouse button down until you get it where you want it. Sometimes it's a little bit flaky. You have to try again. Oh, thanks, Nancy. You know, as you get going with the software, it's actually pretty intuitive, and I've used it for a very long time. I've used the software since 2007. So I've used it for a long time, and it's just like, it's so easy for me to move around the screen because I know where all the tools are. It's very good software, very, very easy to use but you have to practice, just like any other software. Practice makes perfect. In my former life, I was a music teacher, and I had to say that a lot to my junior high students. Do you put the tabs on before doing the back? Yes, I do. There's little tabs at the top. Let me show you the picture again. Yes, so you add the tabs right before. I've just put ribbon. Let me find my little picture here just a second. Yes, so right before I put the back on, I put I put it in the instructions when you sew it out, that you add these two little tabs so you can hang it up. Yes. So you're going to have the little tabs, and then it's got the little envelope back in the back, or the little envelope back. That is correct, Marcia. The stippling is under the bunny. I knew I was going to be using, I was not going to be using like heat transfer vinyl. When I use heat transfer vinyl, like on the pillows and stuff, I have to take the stitches out from underneath there because it will show through when you iron it down. But I did not take it out from underneath this because I knew this was a standard applique and it's fine. Oh yes, you need to drag it like on top of the last color. Yes. Lynn, yes, you have to drag it on top of the last color. Do you know if Floriani software has a Puffy Foam tool? You know, I think it does, Denise, but I cannot remember. I don't have it on this computer. I don't have my work computer turned on tonight. I can text you that later, though, if that's okay. I have it here, but I don't have it turned on for tonight because I used my home computer for this. Isn't that a cute little project? I thought we needed something for Easter, you know? Our Easters are all being a little odd this year, so I thought we just needed something fun. So, is there remover overlap setting that will remove the stitches underneath? Yes, there is, Nancy. If you wanted to remove the stitches underneath, there is a way to do that. It's very easy. I just didn't do it with this one because I didn't need to. When we're doing another project, if we're going to use heat transfer vinyl, I will do that. But with normal appliques, I just didn't really, I don't usually do it just because it's faster, but it's not difficult to do. Okay, so next Sunday, we will be back to Sew Along with Jan. We're going to sew out our little bunny banner, and we're going to talk a little bit about the settings page. Also, this would have been our April Explore Club. So we're going to sew the bunny banner, and then I will have the design available for you as well. I would like you to learn to digitize your own, so that's why I thought we'd do this first. And then we will talk a little bit about the settings page. Okay, Denise, what? They just did another upgrade and I couldn't find it. Oh, I'll go look at it, Denise, because I just upgraded my software the other day. Nancy, you will not be able to call well, yes, you can. My boss will be at the store tomorrow, I believe. And if you leave a message, he could call you back. If you want to call my cell phone, you have that now. I will be home tomorrow. Oh, Jackie, yeah, you can watch later. That's fine. Okay, does anybody have any other questions? And Tim wanted me to let you know we had the Floriani event. And we also are offering a special on there's a few of you that don't have the Dime software that you've been coming to classes. So the Floriani software was on sale at the event for $15.99, and he's going to do the same price for the PEP software for $15.99, and then include a thread set. So he's wanted me to pass that along because we were going to do some specials on the software too. It's eventually going to be on the website, but I just haven't gotten all that done yet. I'm working at it. But no, Nancy, you could call the store and leave a message, or you can just call my cell phone if you want. My boss will be at the store tomorrow for a while though. Okay, are there any other questions? Okay, so I'm looking forward to seeing your digitizing. So hopefully everybody can sew out their banners before next week that they digitize themselves. So it's really fun to do. Once you get to digitizing, this kind of stuff goes very quickly, and it's easy to do. You have to practice, and I've had lots of practice. So, and I encourage all of you to open your software every day. If you open it every day and use it just to do a little bit, then you learn it so much faster. So, okay. All right, so we'll see you all next week. Please, if you need anything, text me, message me through Facebook, email me. And then Denise, I will get back to you in a little bit. I'll go turn on my work computer and let you know about the Puffy tool in Floriani. So, all right, thanks everybody. Good night.